Hi, good evening.
Hi, Ivy. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Very well, thank you. Good to see your face.
Same here.
Okay. Have you- yeah, Vale. Oh, you know what? Let me. Hi, Anita. Hi, Amalade. How are you today? Okay, I think there's something wrong with my internet. Let me just switch.
So we can hear you. I think you might be.
Oh, okay. Her own. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure. You know,
Okay.
anytime I'm having online meetings like this, I always make sure I have one major internet and two backups. Nah. I have been dealt with. The time that before I used to have one major one and one backup. So I was having an online meeting and the two.
Just went off. Oh wow.
So now I have learned to have one major one, two backups, and I'm ready for a third backup if need be. You dealt it. Yeah, that day I was livid. Hey, Osarume is in the house. We have a Shagun Jones. That name doesn't ring a bell. Shagun Jones, can we see you? Why did Osarume not run away now? Sure. Shagun Jones, we'd like to see you. Osarume, it's not that you're wearing native. Did you go for one bet today?
No, I didn't.
I cannot tell. Maybe you went for one bet like that and you didn't invite us. Hi, Samuel. Let's see your face. Remember, it seems like you're signed on with 2 devices, right?
Me?
Yeah. I'm just
No,
asking.
just one device.
Oh, okay. I see another room here. So Shagun Jones would like to see your face.
I am signing device.
Okay, sorry, it's Toby.
It's who? Toby.
Yes, it's Toby. Sorry, I'm using my husband's phone.
Oh, okay.
My
All the people that
phone.
will be using your husband's name, please change the name now so that at least we know, because I was saying it that I don't know any Shagun Jones.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay. It's understood. Uncle Samuel,
Ma,
share with us what are the scores.
hello? Hello?
Hello, I said, what are the scores now? Did they beat your team? Is that why you're stammering?
Actually, I just came back from somewhere now, and I'm just trying to settle down.
Oh, okay. Would allow you some time then.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Ivy and Osarume, I think we'll start, and we'll have someone just say an opening prayer for us. Then let's start so that we keep to time. Others will join us. Can someone say the opening prayer for us? Toby, let me call on you. I've cashed you. Oh yeah. Say the opening prayer for us.
All right. So, in Jesus' name,
Amen.
Heavenly Father, we appreciate you for this evening. Thank you for today. We thank you for our day. We thank you for our week. We thank you for all you've seen us through the week. We thank you for all you've helped us to achieve. And we're grateful for what you help us to achieve on this platform this evening. We give you all the glory. We pray, Lord Jesus, that our time will not be wasted on this platform this evening in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Each and every one of us will go back with something very, very tangible, much more than we ever imagine or expect, in Jesus' name. Thank you for answered prayers, for in Jesus' mighty name.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so gentleman and lady, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you
Okay.
can see your screen.
Awesome. Alrighty. Let me start presenting.
And please wait, before you present, you have to tell us about you now. Who is
Oh no, don't
I?
worry.
Who are the presenters?
It's part of. It's part
Oh,
of.
sorry.
No.
Don't be angry. Don't be angry.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. There is some background noise that is coming up. Please, if you're not speaking, will you want to mute? Okay, awesome. So, hi everyone. Good evening. So myself and Rumer are going to be running through a knowledge sharing session, which will cut across different aspects of human resources. But feel free, like what we do hope is that we're able to share knowledge and also interact with everyone. And above everything else, we want to be able to also hear people's feedback right after the session. So it's going to be short and sweet, straight to the point. Hopefully it is a good learning, experience for everybody. All right. So what is the outline? Basically, we're going to be telling you a little bit about ourselves. So in a nutshell, what are our stories? And then we go straight into the knowledge sharing session. All right. So in a nutshell, who is Ivy and who is Rume? So I will kickstart and I will hand over to Rume to take things on from here. So my name is Akonam Ivy Ikpelue. Most people call me AK, even family members, or Ivy, whichever they prefer. I've had over 9 years experience as a management consultant, as an internal auditor, as well as a human resource leader. I've been able to support in organizations within the financial services sector, primarily, as well as technology sector. And one thing I'll tell you is that startup is fun, but it could also test you and stretch you far above what you could ever think. I have been able to help businesses build, assess, and monitor their internal processes, help them to scale. I've also helped to build HR functions within West Africa and East Africa, and also to build remote teams within West Africa as well as North Africa. Outside of work, I act as a mentor, a coach, and also a facilitator. I've been doing this for 10 years now, going on 11. Well, I'm passionate about young adults, and I'm passionate about helping them to chart their own goals, ambitions, and also to achieve their purpose in life. Outside of that, I am an aspiring chef. I love to cook. I have tried all sorts of things, and all I can say is thank God I'm alive, and the people around me are alive as well. I do see myself going to culinary school just for fun, and also to see if that I could build an enterprise out of that. I also love traveling. One, I love food. Honestly, I love cooking, taking photos, and learning new recipes. And one thing I also tried to commit to from 2013, 2013, was to travel to at least one country every year. And since then, I've been able to travel to 12 countries: Europe, West Africa, East Africa, and North Africa. But I do want to go back to North Africa because their stories are amazing. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. So I will, and again, my friends tease me that my laughter could raise up the dead. So in case you hear me laughing anyhow, that's part of why they say that. So yeah, so I'll hand over to Rume.
All right, thank you, Ivy. I just switched my internet service provider, so please just put in the comments if you can hear me clearly. My other network was acting up, and I didn't want to have any issues. All right, thank you so much, Ivy, for that. My name is Osarume Akenzua, and I currently lead programs at a social impact organization. I had worked a few years ago with training and development for a couple of businesses, a number of businesses across different industries, from banking to education to hospitality to telecommunications as well. I'm driven by a Nigeria where service will no longer be mediocre, and we would translate what we have always known as the Nigerian factor into something that truly represents excellence and exceptionality, if there's anything like that. I enjoy listening to music, just like Ivy. I enjoy having a good laugh. I think one of the things that I do, especially after a hard day of work, is really just listen to some of these skits or watch some of these skits, and I have a good laugh. I remember a few years ago, I'd accompanied a few of my friends to see Crack Your Ribs, and I literally fell on the floor. I was rolling on the floor. But this was me in the past. I don't do that anymore, okay? And my friends used to always say then that as soon as I start laughing, someone should get a hold of me so I don't fall to the ground. So again, like I said, that's not me anymore, but I enjoy having a good laugh. I enjoy good music as well. And I'm really passionate about, helping people discover what they're meant to be doing. I think that the level, I also double as a coach or a life coach. So I had my life coaching certification 2 years ago. I've also completed a neuro-linguistic programming course as well. And this was just really some things that I had to do because I was at a point in my life where I needed to rediscover myself. These programs have really helped me understand myself better, and it's helped me in my line of work. So working with people, coaching people, and helping organizations just do better through helping them, helping them develop their teams. Worked with, like I said, trained over 5,000 people actually over the past few years. Worked with a number of businesses. I love coaching people. I love listening. I think listening is something that we're not taught or never taught in school. We're taught how to read and write, but we're never taught how to listen to others and empathize with others, especially their perspectives and their views on different subjects. So that's something I have learned to do, and I enjoy doing. I guess that's what pushed me into coaching as well. Another thing about me is I enjoy speaking. I've had the opportunity to speak on different subject matters, with particular attention on people and development. So nothing outside people and development. And yeah, I think I love God. I believe in Nigeria, and I know that we're not out yet. So that's a summary of Osarume, and I will be going straight into our presentation for today, knowledge sharing. Please, if at any point you can't hear me, just put in the comment box so it's I can adjust and check what's going on. I could easily just log on a different device as well. So today, thank you. Today we are sharing on, selection tips, right? Selection is something that's really, really important. I think from my work with a lot of organizations and businesses over the past 6 years, I find that a lot of smaller, medium enterprises as well as startups struggle with selecting the right people, and so you find that attrition rate generally is pretty high because people come and go. One of the things that we had set up the social impact organization I work with to do is also to reduce the burden of HR executives with repeat or recurring hiring. So the young people that go through the program and that are placed on jobs are encouraged to stay for at least a year so that they're building work experience for themselves. And then on the other hand, the employer who's hiring from the organization knows that there's some level of certainty. I don't have to worry about the entire recruitment process for at least a year. Whether that has worked as much as we hoped it would is another question for another day. And I'm sure that a lot of HR practitioners on this call can relate to the pains and the nightmares of that. So I said that to lay a foundation for the importance of selecting right. And then, so we have 3 things here. So the 3 things are really competence, character, culture. I know some of us on this call, or perhaps even all of us, are not new to these concepts, but I would look at them from maybe a slightly different dimension today. So with competence, every time that you talk about competence, you want to be able to understand what are the specific tasks that this person or these people that you're looking for are going to carry out on a day-to-day. Many times I've seen people and I've interacted with business people who want to hire somebody for the sake of hiring. They feel like there's one function that's not being performed, or there's one task that's not being performed by anybody. And so they feel like the other option is, let me find somebody else, let me hire a new person to be able to do this. Now, sometimes one of the things that people don't realize is you don't always have to add an extra person to the team because there's one task or there's certain functions that are not being performed. What you could do is actually look around and take some sort of audit and see how many people on your team can add one of these functions or these tasks to their plates, of course, without overwhelming them. So competence means you are specific on the tasks. You understand and you have a picture of what they're going to be doing on the day-to-day or week-to-week, so that you are not putting yourself in a place where you hire a new person and you're struggling to pay that person, or you're struggling to really see the productivity and value that that person brings to the team. And many, many times we find that a lot of people fall into that trap. So don't make a knee-jerk decision. Don't react spontaneously to be quick to hire. Something we talk about is talent strategy. Every time somebody starts an organization or a business, it's about, we want to make money, we want to generate profit. But it's very important to be able to identify what your talent strategy is. And by talent strategy, you're saying, what are the competencies that are going to emerge from your business or your organization in the next 6 months to 1 year? And that's looking at short-term to mid-term. You could go even longer to say 1 year to 2 years or 5 years, depending on the trajectory of growth that is anticipated for your business or your organization. And so sometimes HR practitioners can sit in and say, what is, you know, have that conversation or chat with the CEO or with management to say, where are we trying to get to, understand where we're trying to get to as an organization. And then it helps you to really jointly, I mean, I think it's a collective thing, have some sort of roadmap or strategy around the talent of the organization. So competency is important. Character is the second thing. Character is really important because, I mean, I remember we had some training with some people and somebody had said, oh, we had this person that we wanted to hire, but the management team didn't want to hire this person because they felt there were certain nuances that this person brought that were not acceptable in the organization. So you want to also test for character if that's something that directly affects the work that the organization does. For some people, character is not exactly a big deal, but some organizations do find, and I've heard a few people say they hire for attitude and they train for skill. You can train people in competencies and skills, but you can't necessarily train them in character because characters are formed based on background, upbringing, exposure, education, and so many other things, right? So it's important to look at the character component. And then culture, finally, before I move on, is the way of working. How do you work in this organization? And there's certain things that you feel are non-negotiables for you. And you have to look out for those things. You have to outline those things. I remember there was an organization we're working with, and they said, oh, they had somebody who had tattoos or who had jewelry, a male folk who had jewelry. Are you anticipating this sort of things? The way you work, are you looking at your culture as being something that's built on certain core values, respect for one another, quality of work. So there's so many things about way of working that you need to pay attention to. So when you think about selection, you want to be able to find that there is that fit on the competence level, on the character level, if that's a big deal for you, and then on the cultural level. I'll move on to the next one. The next thing is motivating. So how do you motivate people? I mean, a lot of times people say, I don't know how to motivate my people. And I always like to look at motivation as extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic means that it's from without that individual or that group or team of people. Intrinsic, obviously, as the word implies, is from within. So there's some people, and they usually, there's a whole lot of different motivators. This is just a snapshot of a few of them. There's some people who are particular about prestige. Every time you're trying to get somebody onto your team, or you're trying to really understand the people that you currently have on your team, you need to look at it from a place of prestige. Some people are not big on financial gain or financial rewards. They just enjoy the prestige. I remember we had worked with a particular bank, and they said they have issues. Their attrition rate was astronomical. And that was simply because everyone who joined the bank as an intern over a 6-month period felt like this was a great way to get my CV up to, to get my CV to an enviable point where I could always write the name of this bank on my CV and then move on to other things. So whilst the bank was trying to get people who would come in, who would understand and absorb the culture, and stay long-term, the guys who were coming in were actually looking at it as, it's an opportunity to be associated with such a prestigious bank. I'm not looking to stay here for longer than 6 months. I mean, if I eventually make it for 6 months, you guys should be glad that I made it till 6 months, right? So that for them, it was prestige, that was the motivation. For other people, flexibility is also something that motivates them. It's work hours. Are the work hours flexible? Do I have to be there 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 8 to 8 or 9 to 9? I'm able to do some other things. I mean, it's commonplace now that a lot of people do what we like to call side hustle in Nigeria, right? So they have their private gigs here and there. you need to come to terms with it, because that's where I believe that that's the reality now. Staying in denial and trying to ignore it wouldn't really help. So some people enjoy the flexibility. I have time to do other things. I have time to focus on my business. I have time to focus on my family or other things. That's flexibility. Now, altruism is, they just want to give back. They want to be able to do some good to humanity. And that's what altruism means. It means that this person is not really about, if you're not raising their salary, they're not one of those people that are going to walk away. They're looking for something more. There's something about giving back to society and helping humanity that just validates their existence and gives them a level of fulfillment. And then you have power and influence. There's some people that it's because they're supervising or they have an oversight function, that drives them, that motivates them. Some people take it to the extreme sometimes and abuse. They say absolute power intoxicates, absolutely. So, but some people are able to find a good balance, right, and blend the power that they have and an influence. So you're in a position of power, you're a decision maker, but then you're also able to influence people because you are leading by example, you are leading by influence as well. So these are just a few motivators that you have to be mindful of when you are trying to get the people on your team to do much better than they're currently doing. And one way to do it is ask. If you're not able to observe a lot of times, you could actually just ask. What give them a list. What are out of these 3 or 4 things are your top motivators? What drives you? And you'll be surprised sometimes. Whereas some organizations or the management team think it's more salary, it's higher salary, higher pay. Some people are actually on the team who really are not about that. They might fall into one of these categories. Okay, so writing off motivators, now you get a sense of this. You want to also be able to maintain a culture of rewarding and recognizing people. I was listening to a webinar earlier on today, and somebody was saying everybody likes to speak about themselves. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. So interest in others, and I think that when you're trying to reward or recognize your team, it's important that you look at the creative ways that you could do that, right? Sometimes it's, we're increasing your salary, and for some organizations right now, it's not very convenient to increase pay, right? So what are the other creative ways? One is experience gifts. Some organizations have different affiliations with businesses that offers different services, and you could make these services accessible and open to exceptional people on your team. And so it doesn't have to be that I'm giving you a cash reward. It could be that I'm sending you to one of our partners a night for 2, or a dinner for 2, or go bowling for 2. So you give them the opportunity to invite somebody who, whether they're married or unmarried, somebody who's special to them. And that usually works pretty well because the experiences are things that you can never really buy or trade, with money. So experience gifts are the way to go if you don't have as much to spend. Obviously, in the course of doing business, you have different partners, service providers. Try and reach out to them, and you just never know. You never know what the possibilities could be. Social media posts, I don't need to say too much about that.
Mic check, can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Rume, okay, we couldn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So social media posts, you're recognizing people publicly. If you have a huge following, if you don't even have a massive following on social media as an organization, it's very, I think it's a good way to go because you're recognizing them publicly. And a lot of people these days who are, so many people are hooked on social media. So they might get messages from their friends. Oh, I saw you on this post by your organization, well done. And that gives some validation and that encourages them a great deal. So certificates and awards, that's something that I guess a lot of us here are used to, and continues to be, a very interesting way to motivate people and just keep them as encouraged as possible. And I think that that's something that we could continue to do, and just make it known to people that every time somebody gets an award and a certificate, it's not to put the others down, it's to encourage every other person to give their best and bring their best to the table. And recognizing that as much as you can, and nominating these people who have performed outstandingly at the organization, so that there isn't that worry or concern of nepotism or favoritism within the organization. So create something that helps you measure as objectively as possible, whether it's you're getting input and feedback from their colleagues, or whether you're getting feedback from customers, the people you serve. It helps to balance things out. So you might see somebody as exemplary, extraordinary, and then the customers or the people that you serve, who are primarily the most important, don't see that person that way. So it's important to find that healthy balance, and then hopefully you're able to get the right results from the people that you work with. And that is my time. I will pass the baton to Ivy, who will be continuing this presentation from the technology standpoint. Ivy, over to you.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much, Rume. That was really, really insightful and helpful. I'm just going to follow up from there to say, as HR leaders and as HR practitioners, oftentimes we are caught up with, just building policies and just writing out things without really fully shaping the way organizations will run, or shaping how our own function would evolve over time. And that's one of the reasons why design thinking came up. And design thinking, I think, was one thing that Pastor Kojo said, which is, as you find problems and you're trying to build solutions to it, what other resources, what other technologies, what other methodologies, techniques can you adopt from, fields outside of yours that you can, incorporate into what you're doing? Now, design thinking isn't really a HR thing. It's been, around for a while, a long while, longer than people actually think. But it came up as a result of, designers trying to build different prototypes for end users, technologists trying to find solutions that the end users will find helpful. Because it's one thing to build a solution that will just solve a problem, or to build a solution that people would actually find helpful. I think for some of us, we will agree that, for example, the USSD codes, *737, initially people would have thought, who would use this? But when we're caught up in a tight place and we need to top up our phones, or to, send money urgently to a family member or for something, you see that those codes are really helpful. And that's where design thinking comes into it. Design thinking is like a creative solution-based way of solving problems where people, human beings, the end users, are at the center of that, process flow or solution that they want to bring. And this is broken down into three main, groups. Now, the first step is that you empathize, right? Rume mentioned something about, ask people how they want to be recognized. It might be that for many times people just say, oh, salaries are the problem. Salaries may always be the problem, but aside from salaries, what is the other thing that's going to make people stay or even motivate them to do more? And that is reaching down to people and asking them. You could do that in many ways. It could be one-on-one, it could be in person, it could be even through an employee survey. Now, how do you leverage the information that people have, given to you? Here, you're trying to meet users at the point of, their problems, to say, what is the problem? How do we support? What do you think might help? And then when you have all that information, you've gathered it, now define it, build that problem statement. What are you trying to fix? And when you're able to identify that, it might not just be one thing, it might be multiple things. Because you would agree with me that when you look at employee survey responses, there's so many things that people are talking about or seeking to get support with. So you're able to stagger that and find out, okay, what are the top 3 things? What are the top 5 things? Identify that and have a problem statement, because when you have a problem statement, it's easier for you to know if you actually solving the problem or not. The next is ideate. Now, the ideate is a point where you build personas or you build ideas. So when I say personas, for example, you're trying to build, will I say, a recruiting process, right? When you're building personas, you're trying to see, okay, as a candidate, what do I want my experiences to be? As a hiring manager, what do I want my experiences to be? And when you have that, you're not able to itemize those experiences, and you're able to build processes that will help you support the hiring managers to achieve their goals. And then it may or may not be the same thing that you need for the candidate experience as well. So again, put yourself as a candidate, what would I want to see? And then don't limit it to just what you want to see. What is best practice within this field, within this part of HR? Now, once you have that, have like an MVP, a minimum viable product, like your first version. It doesn't have to be all glamorous and sprazzy. I know for most HR people want to have everything covered, want to have dot all our I's or our T's. As I say, perfection is the enemy of good. So how do you have a first version that can work? And then you start building over time. So that's what prototype means. Now the testing part is, okay, now you've prototyped, you have a sample that you want to share, then you take it to, either a focus group or a controlled set. So I know most organizations would have change agents. If you don't, this would be one of the good reasons why you do have change agents. These are people that you're going to say, hey, we want to roll this out. We don't know if it's going to work. We need your support to help us to find out this solution. And then you share it with them. Then they use it for like a week or two, and they tell you, I didn't really think this was helpful. You didn't make a difference. Again, don't forget the problem statements you had in the define phase, because at that phase, you now check again, did we actually solve this problem? And then when you get that feedback, now the testing phase could take you to any phase again. It could take you all the way back to the empathize phase. It could take you back to the define stage. It could take you back to the ideate or the prototype stage. But when you do have, feedback to move on to the next level, you take that and you implement. But don't think it stops there. It means that as you implement, you also gather feedback, and then you see how to make that process evolve and change and grow and get better. Finally, I'm going to move on to leveraging technology. While design thinking is great, right? It involves you stretching yourself. It involves you also collaborating with your team and even people outside of your team to be able to bring the desired results. One thing that I've seen that has really made HR more efficient is leveraging technology. Like there's so many ways in which we could be more effective as HR practitioners. And one thing that is really and clearly evident is that HR has been evolving over time. Now, 2020 was a real shaker for people to actually see the value, the strategic value that HR brings, but we could be our own enemies if we fail to be more strategic, or we just focus on just being transactional HR. And when I say transactional HR is, okay, you're just there to sign leave, attendance, all of that. An app can do that. So if an app can do that, what makes you really different, and what value do you bring? Now this is a time for you to like reflect and come up with strategic ways in which you can help the business thrive, help the business evolve, help employees be more productive, grow, and also give their best. So we're going to be talking about tools that we could use. It doesn't stop here. There's so many tools. And again, I need to put a disclaimer. It can be distracting to find the right tool. But when you do find the right tool, and when you have this mindset of consistently automating things, it would help be a very, very effective and efficient HR leader within your space. Now, acquisition. What tools would you use? There's so many tools around. There's Greenhouse. There's also LinkedIn marketing, where as a recruiter, you have a package where you're able to see the talent you want, you're able to advertise what you need, and it helps you to collate the information. And there's also like a Greenhouse is more like an ATS, like an applicant tracking system. I know for some companies, they're quite small. I may not be able to afford like building or having an ATS that is separate. What you can do is start small and start with an Excel sheet. Start with a Google form, And the Google form can help you, post on social media. You can leverage LinkedIn. It's free, except you want like additional, features. Use that to be able to get people. And you can also leverage technology people to be able to build a one-page website. Like it will amaze you about, like you'll be so surprised the kind of content that is online that you can leverage. So leverage that, work with it, understand what it means. And when you're drawing up processes, draw up processes that would outlive you, not one that is dependent on you or anyone. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, you're able to leverage technology that could help. Now onboarding. Onboarding is really critical for anyone coming into your organization, because within that time, they're deciding if that's the right choice for them. Do they stay or do they go back to where they came from? So for you to be of value, for you to be able to get the most out of people, make sure your onboarding is really, really proactive and intuitive, and not one that is, reactive. Use technology to send people messages. So one of the tools that I know I've used in the past that is really helpful is Bamboo HR. Is a HIRS, and it helps you send onboarding packets to people. It asks them to give a summary about themselves. It asks them, what is your preferred name? It asks people, it shows them who their teams are going to be, where they need to be. And all of that could be done by just, setting things up and automatically programmed to be able to send this to employees or new hires at a particular day. So leverage Bamboo HR and leverage other tools that are around there. There's also called Board On. There's something also called Board On that you can use. And these tools are primarily intuitive they're actually intuitive enough to help you just have templates, and they put in all the missing pieces together to make that experience great. Now, employee engagement is really, really critical. Now, how do you also do employee surveys? Using Google Forms is great, but there are tools that help you that have AI, you know, and machine learning uh, deeply ingrained into them, that helps them to be able to bring out references and bring out focus areas that you need to, work on in order to get employees to the right place where you want them to be regarding engagement. So there's Office Vibe, there's Peacon, there's so many other ones around. The Office Vibe most people use because it's affordable and also cheap depending on um, your company size. But technology will be here, is already here. And if we need to be able to be ahead of the curve to either learn these things so that we can be the value bringers on how to utilize these tools effectively. Now, performance management has moved from us just having, mid-year appraisals and end-of-year appraisals. There's continuous improvement and there's continuous tracking. And you want to be able to leverage technology to do this, because as a person, you can't do this on your own, especially if you're a one-man or a two-man team, which most organizations are. Um, when it comes to their HR teams, you want to be able to leverage technology. So try out tools like Small Improvement, also 115 Vibe, and the other tools as well that are also affordable that you can use just to track performance and to help employees see the value that it brings, not just to them as individuals as they grow, but also to the business. Now, learn and development is, critical. It's been proven to show that, look, people are going to stay longer in organizations that spend time to train them. And as we know, when it's time to cut budgets, people just go straight to L&D budget and cut. So how can you be more efficient with that? You can try LinkedIn, you can try Grovo, the other tools as well that you can do. And for high performers, you can maybe go a notch higher to say, why don't I put you in the Just Person Academy? Try that, leverage technology, and see how it helps. And above all, have a HRS system. You don't want to be having employees information on sheets or Excel documents or Excel sheets that people have access to and is very porous. You want an online system that has security that people can trust. And again, doesn't mean that that doesn't have its own headaches. But the truth is that when you have things ready there on the go, you're able to automatically generate reports. You're able to spend time looking at the data to see how that data can fit into the business and generate better results. So we have come to the end of our session. Thank you everyone for coming out today and for spending time with us. We're open to questions. We want to hear feedback and would really love to hear additional comments as well as recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivy and Osarume. A round of applause. Well done. Well done. That was simple, straight to the point, and very insightful. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's begin to type our questions. But for me, I just want a bit of clarification, Ivy. So when you talked about onboard tools, you mentioned Bamboo HR and another one. I didn't get that. Which one is it? You mentioned Bamboo HR and another tool.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute because when you're sharing your screen, these things don't come up. It's called board on. Like board, instead of onboarding, they took the on behind board on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Great. And I didn't get the tool for performance management also.
It is small improvements and 15 vibe. I can double check 15 vibe, but small improvements I have used.
Okay. All right then. So that's the question from me.
Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the time to be. If not, I'll call on you. You must ask questions, but please ask them questions. I mean, they've shared a lot of stuff, and I see that they try to share it at a high level, so that if there are other areas that you want them to just elaborate on, please let's ask questions. But Ivy, another question from me is, would you mind to share an instance in your career where you have used design thinking to approach a HR issue? So tell us about the issue and tell us, what the outcomes were, what you learned, in that process. Because I feel that one, design thinking is, but not many of us know how to bring this home to what we do on a day-to-day basis at work.
Gotcha. I agree. Because again, one of the reasons I was able to use and understand this is because for the past 5 years, 5 to 6 years, I've been in the technology space. And there's so many things that designers and technologists do that have been helpful for us. So that's how, I got about doing this. I also wrote an article about this. I will share it in the group after. But I would, summarize this in terms of, how do we bring this into the HR space? So I'll give an example of what I had in the article, which is onboarding. Now, we had a time when we would buy all these things. And so when I say things, I mean like swag, which is something we give everybody during onboarding, like customized cup, customized shirts, customized different things where we had like 2 or 3 items that were customized for employees. And in our minds, we were doing an amazing job. And so we would ask for feedback at the end of each onboarding for people to rate their experiences and rate the experiences of them using or the value of these items we give them. And to our surprise, while the information part of the onboarding, we got good ratings, but in terms of the items themselves, it wasn't really great. And also managers felt like people were not really ready enough after onboarding. So what we did was we got the feedback from the onboarding, which was more or less people's feedback. And then we said, oh, so everyone here who we hire within this time, what would you suggest we give people? So that was the empathize phase. We saw that there was a problem. Our ratings and our survey showed it. And managers' feedback also gave us that impression that onboarding is great. People come in, ready to grind and ready to do all sorts, but there were still some things that we had to improve. So we have that. And then we reached out to the managers as well to share their experiences. What exactly would you want us to do better? And what skills would you want? So we got that empathize stage, and then we defined what it is. So we identified where the problems were. We identified the problem statements. Were like 2 or 3. And what we did from there was put ourselves in, employee shoes, which goes into the Ideates, which is pretend you are the new hire or pretend you are the manager. How would you see, based on the feedback they've given you, how do you see that we could, infuse this into the process or the way we're thinking about a solution? And so we itemized that as well. So we had rough sketches, written down. And oftentimes it's good to do this in a space where you have boards, so you can put any thought. There's no negative thought at that point. I just gather everything, and then at that point, when you're trying to draft a new onboarding process, we looked at what we had in the past. We saw where those flaws were really apparent, and then we saw ways that we could even change some things, and then we had a revamp. What we had, which I recommended, is that we had change agents, we had cultural champs who would help us reevaluate this thing. So we pushed it to them to say, hey, comparing this and this, which would you prefer? And I mean, most of them tilted towards the new one. People just liked status quo, so they stayed with. So we had a mix there, and then we had to now say, okay, fine, made tweaks and sent it back to them to say, this is what we have, is this better? And we also got a few of the new hires and also some managers that had shared this feedback to say, this is what we're considering. Do you feel like this will help? And they're like, oh yes, this helps and all that. And then so we tested it in the next batch. So we tested it for like 2 or 3 batches so that at least we had enough data to compare with the old one. And we could see the difference in the data and the responses, because even with the new guys coming in, we didn't give them any impression that this was changed, just, carried on as usual and use this new process. But it was evident in the feedback that we gathered that, things were better. Managers who had raised issues we also appreciated that we had done. And so it was very apparent. So we're able to test with our change agents and they were able to implement. I don't know if this helps.
Yes, that sure does help. Thanks for that. Okay, I don't know if anyone sent a question. My internet went off for a second, so I've lost all the chats. But did anyone send any question? Did anyone send any question? People ask question now. Or you want to be doing?
Mic check. I think there is someone who sent a question. So my little concern with this Oyibo HR tech tool is that they have few limitations considering our local market peculiarities. Are there any home-based made in Nigeria tools out there? Awesome. Cynthia, you're correct. A few of these tools are generated external from Nigeria, but it doesn't stop them from being as effective. And for example, I'll give you an example, which is Bamboo HR. It is an American tool, and it has a lot of functionalities. I think the only thing I would tell you not to leverage them for is payroll, because their payroll system is really different. But this tool has been used in multiple continents, and it still gives the same result. So technology isn't really, and again, I'll put a caveat here because some technology are specific to some market, but the way some other technologies are built consider the global market space. And some of the things that we're doing as well, we should also aspire to have, will I say, a global perspective to it. There are some things that I think in here in Nigeria we do have. I haven't actually used a lot of tech tools here, but I would say leverage what you have externally because some of them are built for the global market space. For example, you have Workday. Workday is used in so many European countries, North America. And so if you have, just like SAP, is used in so many countries. And if you have the knowledge of doing that or using that tool, then you're definitely a talent for the global market. And right now, COVID has made the global market space very evident to us that it is closer than we think. That you can literally apply for jobs in Europe, in Ghana, wherever it is because of your understanding of how to use some certain tech tools. So I don't know if this helps, Cynthia. Mic check?
Okay, yes. I think she's typing a message. All right. Oh, okay. All right then. There's another question where, okay, it's from Kemi Sola, where she says, is there any training needed for one to use these tools, or you can learn it yourself?
Some of them you will need training. So example, SAP, you definitely need training. There are resources online though that you can leverage before you pay for any training module. You also have Udemy or Coursera or any like edX where they have paid versions and they will take you through sessions one after the other. I do believe that LinkedIn might have some of them, but again, you can check YouTube, LinkedIn, Udemy. You should find sessions that will be able to learn some of these things. But there are paid version. Like for Workday, to learn Workday, you definitely need to pay for that one.
Oh, okay, really? Okay.
Yeah, so they have free ones, but if you want to understand the portal where they will do simulations for you, then you have to pay. It's not usually much. I think I saw a course on Udemy for like $25 or $30. But yeah.
That's not much. I think Omalade said there's open SAP on YouTube where you can learn. I think I've visited their sites before. I don't know what I was looking for, but yes. Okay, people, any more questions? But I think I really appreciate, you're talking about technology and the specific tools, because for a number of us in this group, we all work with SMEs. And with SMEs, a lot of them are not digitized, and they're all struggling to, how can I transform my organization to a digital organization? How can I COVID has brought into, limelight the stark reality that you cannot be operating profitably if you're not, if your operations are not digital. So I see this as very useful to a large percentage of people here, and I'm sure if they have any questions at any point in time, they would harass you. Okay, so Kerem is asking that could you share more light on strategies or activities for a great onboarding? Since you've learned from some things that did not work in your experience. So if Kemsela, for instance, were to be designing an onboarding process, what should she look out for and what should she avoid? You need to unmute your mic. Yeah.
Gotcha. Hi, Kemi. So I'll start off and Rume, please feel free to chime in. So what makes a great onboarding also depends on a number of things. One, who are the target audience? What industry are you in? What flexibilities do you have in terms of onboarding? The goal of the onboarding is similar, it's almost the same all around, which is you want to be able to start employees off on the best foot, more or less like setting them up for success. And envisage that you are more or less their guardian angel who needs to take them to, if you go back to Beauty and the Beast, take them into, the grand ball. How do you want them to shine or be the star in that space? So that should be your focus, which is how do I set new hires up into an experience or into a team that will enable them to be their best versions, the best versions of themselves. So Kemi, can you share what are the key things that should comprise onboarding? Okay, so I'm just going to give you general things and give you, so if you can share what industry you're in, that would also help to make this like more direct. First of all, you want to engage employees before they come in, right? So what is your pre-onboarding phase like? Is it just go for medicals, go for background check? We don't want to know you until you've done that. Or do you want to send them a message? And you could use MailChimp because you're definitely not going to be hiring one person per time. You're going to be hiring 3 or 4 different people, right? So maybe you use MailChimp and say, dear this person, you have a template like that. We're so happy to have you here. We believe that you're going to be an amazing, or congratulations for successfully passing, your interview. We look forward to having you. Your team can't wait to have you. and we know that we're going to be able to achieve amazing things together. So you target that, because what I've seen is most companies target people, if you have enough time, 2 weeks to 1 week to 3 days to then the day before they join. And all of these are emails that are targeted. You can even use, there's something called Boomerang. But again, Boomerang is going to ask you for access to view your email. So if you have a particular email that you send all those messages to, maybe you can do that to say, say hi to this person, and the person can get a message. So always have a pre-onboarding that helps you to either know the person, interact with the person, and give the person some understanding of what your business is doing. Now, onboarding part itself is they need to understand what the company's mission is. What are the goals? That year, what is that year's objective? What happened last year and how did we achieve? And then this year, what are we supposed to achieve? Each department should have, even if it's a slide, maybe you don't want to, maybe they can't all come in, but have a slide that talks about the basics. What does that department do? How do they help the company achieve their visions? What is their org structure within that team? How do you contact them? Now, I know most companies use Slack. So they'll tell you when you come in and you have any problem with your work tools, go to Ask Operations on Slack and everything is there. Some people have help desks that they use to collate all the questions. So one, make sure employees know about the business. Mission, vision, culture is very, very important. Start them on that so that as they grow, they don't forget it. And then they need to have an overview of what each of the departments do. And if they're in that department, it helps them understand how they, as individuals, would ultimately impact the vision. At the end of that, if you do have, so if your organization is regulated, it's very important for you to have a section with either the IT team or the compliance team come in and tell people about the things that they need to know and how they need to represent the brand. Then if there's a marketing team, where can they get content from to better understand and all that? Then finally, HR comes in again, or people team, depending on what it's called, run through the policies. You will definitely not be able to go through line by line, but say, this policy is aimed at this policy aimed at this. All this information you can find on the intranet. And if you don't have an intranet, Google Suites has like a package called Google Sites. You can build one for employees to see. Your handbook is there, your policies are there, benefits are there, everything. Employees need to know what that is. Before you close, let them understand what performance management is like. So if you have a probation period, tell them what probation is like, tell them how frequent performance management is, and make it their job to go and seek time on their manager's calendar to have a one-on-one. Let them start building that muscle. So when performance management comes, it's not like stories that touch. You know where you stand per time, and then you're able to. So those might just be, financial services and microfinance. Sorry, I saw that late. And again, you do have, so your industry is really regulated, right? What are the regulations people need to understand? And if you can, get the legal team to draw up something. It doesn't have to be all scary. So, because when it comes to legal and compliance, people's hearts begin to go up. Let them understand what it means, what are the implications, and also let them know that, look, this is where we stand in terms of this. So it depends on how much leeway you have. Oftentimes, some companies will say the first one day, HR, or the first 2 days, what can you bargain with the manager or the team, so that week, even if it's 3 days, 2 days, you have some part of learning and development, so that you understand what they need to do, understand the tools they have to use, all of that. So I don't know if that helps. Rume?
Yeah, I mean, Ivy, you covered everything. I wouldn't want to repeat anything you've said. I think it completely addresses. I know Kemi had added that she knows of some organizations who add dinners to their onboarding activities. I think again, every organization has the prerogative to design their onboarding as they please. I think as long as they are integrating everything that Ivy has talked about into it. And I guess there's usually a social component to it. So if it's something that your budget allows for, and if it's something that's that aligns with the culture that you have at your organization, feel free to definitely throw in a dinner there to bond with these new hires. So yes, that's all I have. Thanks, Ivy.
things, as he talks about Irume, I just remember that I've had an organization that, well, we're all remote, but when we were in the office, what they would do is that they will have a t-shirt, because most companies have t-shirts, have the t-shirts on the person's chair, put in sweet chewing gum, different things, chocolates, and then put a welcome to this space and with a card. So what they do is they just buy bulk blank cards and sign welcome this person, welcome that, or you can even print it out as the case may be. So again, it depends on you. What do you have budget for? And don't forget that most companies, once they hear budgets, everything flies out the window. When you say money, the end, no, it's not important. You don't need a good onboarding. So try to manage the funds you have as well.
I mean, just to add to that, I think when it comes to onboarding, it's usually the thoughts that counts and not necessarily the budgets that you have, for it. So as much as possible, just try and put in, those very thoughtful gestures. I once worked in an organization that, like Eddie said, you have that in your pocket, but the card is signed by the CEO, and this was MTN. So imagine you as, just an officer, just coming into work, and then you have a personalized card signed by the, CEO with a lot of gifts and paraphernalia. That just gives you, a lovely feeling. Some things like, okay, so there's a body system that I usually implement in most organizations that I work for, where there's someone who's assigned to helping that employee adjust into the norms of working. So your body is calling you a week before you resume and the day before you resume, just to make you feel good. Now, some of these things are pretty much low budget, zero budget, because a lot of business leaders do not understand, the essence of how these tiny little things matter and determine how well an employee will perform. And in some instances, it determines the length of how long the person will stay. The churn rate of that employee. So, even if you don't have budget, there are lots and lots of, no costs, little ideas that. Okay, so Ivy, I guess you have another question from Kemi.
Okay, I think so Cynthia, yes, we can definitely look through what the pain points are. So culture improvement and development. So Kemi, could you elaborate more on this? Because does it mean that the company does not have a culture, or they have and they're just trying to
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Kemi, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Hello.
Yes, we can, Kemi.
All right. Thank you very much. Don't mind me. I have lots of questions. Okay, so the first speaker mentioned something on the key things you should look out for when you are creating competence, culture, and character. So I know that to a large extent, if I want to join a new organization, I'm always particular about the culture of the organization. Now, that's one thing for me. But then if you are in my organization, for instance, we have a particular culture, and where people are now complaining, oh, I don't like this, or I don't have like that, or there is no love, or the language, or things.
I think we lost Kemi.
Yeah, she had her internet seemed to be having some. Well, from my own end, I couldn't hear her clearly. It was breaking off, sort
Okay.
of. Do you have any other questions? Okay. All right. And we'll wait for Kevin to come back, hopefully, but we'll just continue. In the absence of any other questions, thank you so much, Ivy. Thank you, Osarume. This has been wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been I've learned a lot also. I mean, I'm used to using a lot of, the bigger tools, for HR, and it's really a big learning point for me to also learn about the smaller tools for SMEs, and I'm definitely going to be checking out some of those things. Although one of the things I wonder though, and which I mean also for SMEs might be an issue, will now then be how do I integrate all of those different platforms? You don't want the situation where we want to do performance management, we're using A, want to do onboarding, we're using B. Sometimes it could get a bit overwhelming, even for the HR person herself or himself, and talk less of the bigger organization at large. What are your thoughts as to how this can be managed?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. That is a really valid point. The truth is that some of these tools have portions where they call your integration or even APIs where you would merge things together. It's like the connection to all other things. So I'm going to use Bamboo HR for as an example because I've used that many times, which is you do have a tool. So even on Bamboo HR, it tells you these are the recommended tools that you can easily integrate to Bamboo HR. For example, if you use Greenhouse, Greenhouse can easily integrate to Bamboo so that when you click on Hire on Greenhouse, it creates a profile for you on Bamboo HR. What that does is, even for small improvements, when you want to use small improvement for performance management, once you update anything, once you have an integration and you update anything on Bamboo HR, in 2 hours, small improvement is updated. So if someone is exiting on a particular day, it automatically tells small improvements, okay, have this information. It's more or less like the system are talking to themselves, outside of human control. But it boils down to what is your main tool. Because if you determine what your main tool is, then you can now walk around to get tools that will easily integrate. Because all of these tools, they tell you on their technology side, these are all the other tools that can easily integrate. You can integrate others. It should just be that they would have to now find a way to start that process. But they've identified ways that different tools entirely can integrate and talk to each other. So if you determine what your HRS is, then you can determine how other things can fit into it.
Great, fantastic. I needed us to just hear that so that everyone is clear, But for that, for the integration, would you need a software developer to be able to manage the integrations, or some of these things are plug and play?
So if the tool you're using, so for example, if you decide to use, say, there's something called, okay, if you decide to use Bamboo HR, and there's an integration for small improvement, you can integrate small improvement by yourself. You don't need a technology person. If you want to integrate Greenhouse to it or some other tool to it, all you need to do is reach out to the Bamboo HR team to say, I will want to integrate XYZ. If it's already there on their systems, their technology person will help you run a script, and that's all. If it's something that they have to build, then they'll either give you an option. They build it for you at a cost, or you have your own technology people build it for you. But they would always tell you which process to take. Some of them are easy, some are not.
Great, thanks. Kemi, please type your question so that Ivy can respond to it quickly. Whilst we wait for that, I just wanted to make one or two announcements. So first and foremost, we have come to the midpoint of the semester. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. We've just barely started. But yes, I've gotten the notification from the community group board that we have gotten to the mid of the semester. As such, they have a survey that they would like everyone to feel. I will send that survey shortly after this this session. I wanted to talk about it, before just sending it. It's a very short survey. I've also filled it for another group I'm on, which is the Women in Leadership. So it's a very short survey. So please, please, I'd appreciate if you can all fill it tonight. It's less than 2-3 minutes. Just click, 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 click. So pretty much the community groups board is trying to see where improvements need to be made. So please be as factual as possible. And please, one of the things they would also, they've also mentioned is that for the groups, so for instance, if you do not get a lot of feedback, from a community group A, for instance, they would interpret that to mean that, oh, that community group is not active, okay? Because one of the things you realize is that there's so many community groups. So they're also trying to find out which ones should we take out, which ones should we continue, which ones should we expand, which one. So please, and give in your thoughts as much as possible. I'm not going to get to see it anyways, but I'm sure for the next semesters, it will be helpful for the community groups. Also, for next week, we will be having a knowledge share session on Saturday as usual. We have Kwam and Gillian, taking that knowledge share session. And on Sunday, we will be having a master class. Yay! And the person taking this master class is Tosin. Because I've called her Tosin so much, I'm not sure I know her son name. So, but she's actually the governor of all the community groups for HR, family, and I think lifestyle. Yes, okay. She's the head of human capital for Credit Direct, and she'll be coming to teach us on strategic business partnering. I was supposed to take that session, but I just thought, oh, why take the session when I can get the governor to take the session, and then you still have me any day, anytime. If you have any questions, and I feel grateful, for you. So I'm always here. So let's get an external person. So she will be taking a master class next week Saturday. Let's make it a date. That's the second thing. Then thirdly, during the week, I'm going to be sharing some recent judgments, on some NLC cases, that have happened, in the courts of law. The reasons for this is that sometimes you do some things based on what we know, or this is what the labor law says. However, when there are judgments, new judgments from the court of, from the industrial court, or from any of the courts in Nigeria, these rulings take precedence, over whatever it is, and it also shapes how we should manage the interactions with, our employees. So I'll be sharing some of that this week, just for knowledge purposes and to guide us, as we go ahead. The recent one I saw on ARM and pensions was quite interesting, yeah, for lack of better words. And I just thought, okay, it would be good for me to share this knowledge so that we all take this into cognizance as we manage the people that we work with. So thank you so much. So yes, I'll be sharing that during the week. So just Ivy and Osarume, please, sorry, let's just take this question. Okay, Kemi has not typed it. Kemi, we've not seen the question.
I think she said, I asked about how does one go about culture improvement and development? I've asked lawyers on professional colleges. Okay. So I was, Rume, I know Rume said he was having issues with his network. Okay, I think he's gone now. There are a number of things, which is why I wanted you to clarify. But I think the network today is not working well for so many odd reasons. So the first question is, do you even have a culture? If you have a company culture, so if you don't have a company culture, then something you want to do like a culture, will I say workshop with leadership and then employees, or if you have change agents to say, what is one word when you think about this company, what is one word that comes to mind in terms of culture or values that you want to hold? So if you have your value statements, then that helps you to shape your culture. Is the culture one? And there are different types. It could be family, it could be market facing, it could be a mixture of all of them together. But what will help the company move from one stage to the other? Because your culture has to also enable people, but also it cannot be in isolation of your business goals, business objectives, visions, or the value statement. So one thing that you need to leverage your culture on is what is the company's value statement? For example, or the core values, if the company has, say, for example, excellence as one of its core values, then it means your culture needs to have something that reflects that positively. Is it that we're lifelong learners of, we're lifelong learners, we're always eager to learn more, we're open-minded to feedback, we never stop self-improvement, we never stop improving. So that's a culture statement. Now, when you have that, one of the key places you want to start is have it written down somewhere. I think it's even in the Bible is really clear. And I know it says, make the vision plain. In this time, you want to change that to make this culture clear. Because the truth is, what you see every day, what you talk about every day, goes into you. It shapes the way you think, it shapes the way you interact. And I know people have teased this so many times to say, it's funny how Nigerians will drive recklessly in Nigeria, but when they go to other, let's say more established communities, they adjust. It's not because the police is pushing them, it's because there are some things that they keep on saying over and over and over again that makes it stick. So one thing I would say is start by putting it down in writing. And if you can, if you're in the office, put it in places where people would always see, read, and maybe if you start your meetings, have that. The other thing I would say is have culture champions, change champions. Who are the people that you see embody this culture that you can use and leverage to say, hey, what do you guys feel? How do we draw up initiatives that will help us achieve X, Y, Z? The other thing is once you have it internally, then you go into your onboarding and make sure it's part of your onboarding. I think about what the body system that Team Lee just talks about now. If you have people in-house that already have that culture and are strong, and you match them with people who are coming in and they're deviating, it's easier for them to say, hey, that's not how we do it here. So even small things as little as you're queuing for, say, lunch, or you want to get snacks, you don't jump the queue. That is a culture that you have imbibed. If people keep on jumping the queue, then that is a culture that you have. So you promote what you want. I think those are the things that I have seen. Those are the things that I have experienced. And I wish Rumen was here because he's working with another organization that actually pushes so much on culture. And that's something that I believe that will help us. So we just need to find a way to keep reinforcing it, to have people who would help us make sure that it's driven down to every other person. So use or create change champions, culture champions, and then see how that goes. It's not something that will stop. It's something that you have to be intentional about as you grow. If you're a one-man team, if you're a team of maybe say less than 50 people, the documentation alone on the wall might help without you doing anything. When you start growing to like 80, 100, 200, 300, you have to keep finding ways where you can have people reflect on the things that you have shared. I don't know if this helps, Kemi.
Okay, I'm sure that was super helpful for her. But we need to go now. Time is fast spent. Thank you all so much. Okay, so she's responded. Thank you all so much for this time out. Do have a wonderful week ahead. Do have a blessed week ahead. Yeah, and if you have any questions at that point in time, please feel free to buzz me, and we look forward to having a wonderful session next week. Samuel, it's like you want to tell us something.
No, I don't have anything. Actually, I was in transit. My car broke down at Oyigbo. So I was trying to look for a mechanic to fix it for me. I just got back to my house now. So throughout the session, I was busy battling with the challenge of how to fix the car.
Okay, I'll send the link tonight, hopefully, so you can watch a replay. Sorry about that. Hope the car is fine now.
No, I've handed it over to my brother, but I can't stand that stress. It's too much for me.
Okay, well, thank God you have a brother that you can hand it over to. All right then. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.